I'm Dax.
And I'm M.
And this is Full His House,
your Full House fan cast.
And today we are covering Season 1, Episode 17, Danny's Very First Date, aired on February 12th, 1988. Danny develops a crush on the hive mother of Stephanie's honeybees. This woman who is the love interest, her name is Karen Kompness. She plays Linda. She hasn't done a lot of work since after the 90s, but she's very stunning in this. She's very like 80s beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get exactly what you're talking about. I thought the exact same thing. They were going for something specific. They wanted to make sure that the love interest stood out, and they successfully did that.
Yeah, like there's a good reason why Danny is like using, okay, this is the first time I'm really going to go out like on this woman. She's gorgeous. So any initial thoughts on the episode?
The only thing I'm going to say before we start, because I feel like it's relevant, is I am a little disappointed that they didn't bring back the fishing boat girl, just because I feel like they had set that up to be a really good like friendship to potential relationship type thing. But I also had a feeling it would kind of be forgotten for a while. But you know, missed opportunities. It's okay. I think that this episode was still really good, but I do kind of wish that they had brought back somebody that they had already introduced as somebody that, Danny was interested in, but just wasn't ready at that moment to like start seeing somebody.
Yeah, and it can be a combination of things, because I do agree that it probably would have made for a more rich storyline if we had somebody that we were already familiar with. But I do kind of feel like during that time, Danny kind of friend zoned her a little bit. And even when she came back for his 30th, there was a little bit of more of that friend thing going on. But I also feel like to bring her back would be to commit to them dating for a while. And it could also be a little bit too much for Danny. Like maybe he did need someone that he just found cute, that he wants to get to know, and not somebody that he has all this history with, because that could potentially automatically just put more stakes. Like the girls already know her, well, I guess the girls already know this woman, but yeah, that it's a fair point, but yeah, interesting choice there. In the living room, there is a honeybee meeting going on, and today is the start of the honeybee honey drive, and all of the little girls look very adorable in their little bee costumes. And Joey is actually the honorary queen bee, which I freaking love. I love that Joey's getting involved. I love that he's part of this group. Like between this and the whole thing, like you remember when Joey went away and there was like that rotation of babysitting that he had to do for the community? Like
where it's like he had to babysit everybody for like one day, but then the other moms took all of the kids like one day each week so they could all have a break. Yeah, I remember that. I thought that was so smart.
Yeah, like between this and, that whole situation, like they're really shaping up Joey to he's involved with the girls. Like he's just not there, giving them lunch and keeping them alive. He's very well integrated into their activities, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that it was actually really cute that he was involved. I love that he's, deeply involved at that. Like he's really thrown himself into the lives of the girls in like every way he possibly can. Like realistically, he's kind of replacing their mom in a lot of ways. And I don't mean that in a sense of like, oh, like we're not thinking about mom anymore, but I mean a sense of like all the things that she would do because she was home with them all day is what Joey's kind of started doing, being, a part of the bees, and especially with like what we were just talking about with like the rotation of kids. Like he's really stepped into the mom role very much so. And that this episode really, really made me see how much he stepped into that mom role.
Yeah. Yeah. We just love Joey. We do. He's just great. So the way that this honeybee honey drive works is they're selling jars of honey, and whoever sells the most gets a bike, and they reveal the bike, and Stephanie runs over to the bike and tries to climb up on it, and Joey and Linda, they're just like, all right, give it a rest. It's not yours quite yet. You gotta do what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. So DJ is standing on the staircase and Joey announces her entry as she is the record holder of the most jars sold, which I do want to talk about a little bit when we move on just a tiny bit more.
Okay.
But DJ then, she gives a little bit of a motivational speech to the kids, which I also really love. She says, "Look, any kid can sell raffle tickets for a big screen TV. These jars take work." And I'm like, abso-freaking-lutely. People ain't buying honey. And if they are, they're not paying, I don't know, what is this, $15-$20? Because this is probably some good ass fucking farmer's market type level honey.
You know what? You have to also think about like where it is, right? So like, California is known for their oranges, and a lot of orange farms will also have honey because they bring in a lot of bees. So they'll end up collecting like honey and pollen and stuff too, right? So like where I'm at now, they also have a lot of orange farms, and so you get a lot of people who are selling like honey on the side. I know from experience that those jars of honey, depending on what size, can go from $15 to $35. So yes, it's going to take a lot more work, especially since you're just trying to like honey when it's straight from those farms. Oh my God, it's so good. If anybody who's listening, if you've only ever had the honey that you buy in the store, just one time stop at one of those people that are on the side. They got them jars of honey, buy one jar. It changed my mom's life, changed my life. I will never buy store-bought honey ever again because it is just so different. It's so good. It's so sweet, and you don't need anywhere near as much as you need with what you get at the store. But selling it is so difficult because people don't understand the difference in taste and in just how much a little bit goes. Like it goes such a long way.
It's very true. Yeah, hit up those local farmers markets or whoever and buy that local honey. There's this one dude. I'll give y'all his name later because his honey actually slaps pretty good. But he also makes like lip balm out of beeswax and candles made out of honey. Like really, really cool stuff. Yeah. Also, a little bit of a hack while we're on the subject of these honeybees, which are basically like Girl Scouts. And I apologize. I don't think I've said this on this podcast before, but I know that everybody focuses on the cookies, but y'all, if you're out there and you know one of these Girl Scouts who are selling the nuts, if they are still selling the nuts, bro, Girl Scout nuts unmatched. Those honey roasted almonds.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. I think people sleep on them mainly because most people don't know about them. Usually when I hear about Girl Scouts, it's always about
those damn cookies, but on the off season, they got the nuts.
Exactly. Even when it comes to like Hollywood, you see Girl Scouts, they're selling cookies. That's kind of like the go-to. You don't realize it's kind of like the Swanson trucks. Like there's a bunch of stuff in there. You just got to open up a catalog or ask, and you'll realize there's a lot of things that you can actually purchase from them. And it's not just the cookies. It's also not just the nuts, but I definitely recommend looking.
Word. So support local business, y'all. Support local kids. So Jesse walks in and DJ orders them to attack. And Jesse says, oh, been killing bugs all day. A few more won't make a difference. Which I thought was a really funny, cute little joke. Jesse laughs at Joey's role, but Joey is very proud of his title. He's not letting Jesse's toxic masculinity get him down today. He loves being a honeybee mother. Queen bee,
it does help that Joey's extracurricular activities always get him really close to like the hot moms. And in this case, Karen.
Linda.
Think, yeah. Karen is the actress's name,
the real
right?
name. Yeah, I think.
Got you. Yeah, Linda. Especially since, it also gets him close to Linda. But I have noticed that all of Joey's extracurriculars happens to get him really close to like really pretty women. He's just never interested enough to not to like do anything about it, from what it seems.
Because he's not thinking with his dick the same way that Jesse does. Like,
but I kind of love it though, because it's like, okay, so it's like throughout this series, we get 3 different kinds of men, right? So we get like the goofy one who's like Labrador Retriever energy. That's Joey. Then we have like the kind of bad boy, but he's kind of also like a soft teddy bear. You just have to catch him at the right moments. That's Jesse. Then we have like the dad of the group, the one that wants to take care of you, make sure that you're good, the one who's practical and logical. That's Danny. Like we get three different kinds of men, and the writers make sure to show us that they are three different kinds of men through those small actions of, there's a very pretty girl there. You've been working with her for a while. Jesse notices it. Danny notices it. Joey's like, oh yeah, I mean, she's I.
I
think it's so funny because like, that Joey knows that they're attractive. He just never thinks, oh, Jesse would probably like her. Oh, Danny would probably like her. He's just like, she's cool.
Because he's able to see women as beyond.
People. Exactly.
Joey then reveals that there is a tree house from Jesse's mom for Michelle. And I guess the guys are going to make it, and that's going to be the B plot for this episode. Just then, Danny walks in, and he's frantic that he might have missed the honeybee meeting because I guess he already has some interest in Linda. The boys say, no, the honey mother is still there. And while Danny is fixing up his hair and tie, he says that it's absolutely nothing. They're just friends, and he just wants to say hello. The boys see right through this, and Joey asks, why doesn't he just ask her out? And Jesse says, come on, it's been a year since Pam died. I think it's time. And I also think that it's very interesting that they gave Jesse this line, because not that it would be up to him, but it does give the audience just a little bit of that ease, knowing that with Jesse's blessing, it's okay for him to date again, because even though it in a lot of ways isn't too much of Jesse's business who Danny does and doesn't date, I think that it's good to know that he feels comfortable with the idea.
No, 100%, because realistically, like it like, even if it doesn't directly affect Jesse, it was his sister. You get me? And you're going to be moving on from his sister to maybe date somebody else. And even though I'm sure like Danny wasn't even thinking like, let me get permission, he knows that like Jesse is like his boy. So he knew that he would get, the blessing because they've already pushed him to try to date beforehand. But it gives us as an audience, like, like you said, that ease in knowing that, Jesse is cool with this. But I think that there's one more piece of tension that we have to figure out, and that's, are the girls cool with this? Because if anything, they're going to be the ones who really get that feeling of, you're trying to replace our mom by bringing in a new woman. Because, I mean, kids are kids, and that's what they're going to think immediately. That's how it feels, especially if there's no conversation that happens beforehand.
Right. So at least it kind of starts brewing up that we're relatively getting there.
Exactly. Like they're giving us a kind of lead up to it instead of just it's happening here for the plot.
Right. Which, okay, writers, you do know how to do that. Cool.
Exactly.
So the boys push him to go ask her out. He goes into the living room, and Linda is having the bees buzz into the car, and they all just kind of leave the house. Linda's daughter then asks Danny for some jars, and he says he'll take 3 jars. Stephanie comes bursting in. She is outraged. She's like, how can you do this? And then he says, look, I'll take 10 jars from you. And DJ walks in, and she's like, you just bought 3 from the competition. 10 is nothing. Like, well, and they start negotiating, and they land on 17, which, okay. He then reveals to Linda that he bought 112 when DJ set the record. How do we feel about parents paying for their kids' wins? Just buy her the bike at that point.
Okay, here's my thing, right? Like, let's say, for instance, like the jars were $15 a piece. He bought 17 jars from Stephanie. That in itself is just over $250.
Word. Even if it is back,
how many if it was from like DJ? Like, yeah, especially in the late 80s. I know a bike right now, a bicycle, like a kid's bike, is going to cost you maybe $150. Maybe $150. It gets expensive when you get to the adult, like mountain professional bikes, like those like really good ones. But if you're looking for a kid's bike, you can get that for like $150.
If it's
So
$15, if he bought 112, was it 112? That's 1600 that's $1680.
that's crazy. I know that like again, let's say that it is a $15 jar. He bought 17 from Stephanie. That's 255 right there.
Even if it's just $10 and he had bought, what was it? Was it 112? Yeah, that's $1,120. If he's buying 17, yeah, Jesus Christ, that's
Yeah, it's
$170
just
like
buy
that.
her the bike at that point. Like it makes no sense to buy that many if it means that the kid's going to automatically win. Like I get purchasing from your kid, but maybe purchase one from the competition and three from your kids. You get me? Not enough to like make the win theirs, but enough to maybe kickstart their sales. You get me? But the whole point is to allow them to like learn how to
Mm-hmm.
sell, how to be responsible, how to save, how to count. Like it's learning a lot of skills along the way, not necessarily getting the bike. The bike is just meant to be the prize if you work hard enough. And
Yeah.
realistically, he could have bought one or two from her, and even if she didn't win at the end, he's like, you know what, I'm proud of you, so I bought you a bike. She'd still be just as happy. She's not going to go upstairs mad because she didn't get the bike that that she could have won. She's going to be happy having a bike.
That's also true. And you're right. There is more lessons to be learned here. And I kind of feel like DJ is the type to also want the title. Stephanie could have been happy with just the bike, but Stephanie is, I think she's got that type A. We learned in a previous episode, she's the type to get stuff done. That's how Joey had described her. Like, she probably was like, I need to be the best at this thing. So, but I kind of feel like that drive probably, and we don't know, we also don't know, maybe like she did work hard for this. It's also a fictional world, but I'm just saying
Look,
it
all I'm
bumped me a
saying
little
is
bit.
I feel like when DJ was doing it, something definitely tells me that the other girls didn't reach 112 through one parent.
Mm-hmm. So before she leaves, Danny asks Linda if she likes movies. And Linda picks up on the fact that he's trying to ask her out, and she says that she has tickets to a museum and she would love to go with him if she can find a sitter. And immediately, Danny volunteers Jesse and Joey to do it. And she says, "All right, it's her treat. She'll take him to dinner. They're going to do this museum. It's a whole thing." And Danny is stoked. He walks back into the kitchen and he announces to the boys that he got a date, and he was shy and he was awkward. And she asked me out when Jesse asks how it goes down, and reveals that she's the one treating. And Jesse's like, "This awkward thing. How do you do that?" And it's just like, "No, Jesse, you have your strategies. Leave Danny with his." Danny then remembers the girls and how he's going to break it to the girls. And the boys give weird advice, admit they don't really know what they're talking about. And we have a quick moment with Danny and Michelle. So before we move on, I do wonder, like, okay, so at this point, what was going through your mind? Should he bring this to the girls' attention at this point? I understand doing it at this point because with kids, it's one of those things where a lot of people think keeping things under wraps is the best way to go. I do think that there's a little bit of a slippery slope with that, because if things are revealed at a weird time, they can feel lied to. It's kind of like the adoption thing. A lot of people think that, adopt a kid and just don't tell them they're adopted. They're going to find out, they're going to feel lied to. So you have to, get them used to these ideas as young as possible. But I also understand maybe not stressing them out with this kind of information. If this person, we don't even know what this person's doing. Are you really telling them that you're dating Linda? Are you telling him that you're going to start dating in general? Like, what was where was your thought process at this point in time before we had moved forward?
So for me, I think that one, it's definitely important to have the conversation with the kids. Not necessarily about, hey, I'm going to be going on a date with Linda, but more in a sense of, I feel like I'm ready to start dating, and this is what that means. Because like, I can understand why some parents would be like, you know what, I don't want to tell my kids because, then that's a whole lot of stress. I'm not even looking to date seriously right now. I just kind of want to go out and have a bit of fun and maybe get to know people and whatnot. But the slippery slope to that is, if you find somebody who you then become serious about before you're ready to become serious, then when you sit down and have that conversation with your kids that you're ready to date, you have to have that you have to have a conversation at the exact same time, telling them that the person you want to date is someone you actually really like and are thinking about a future with. I feel like, especially in a situation like this, because they lost their mom, it wasn't like a divorce, like she died. Because of this specific situation, letting your kids know that you're going to start dating is going to make the idea of another woman presenting herself in a serious way in months or years down the road a lot easier, instead of having to have both
Mm-hmm.
conversations at once, because you're going to continue to tell yourself, well, it's not serious, so I don't need to tell them about it yet. But you haven't even told them you're dating yet, which means when you get serious, you're going to have both conversations. Hey, I'm dating. By the way, there's this person I've been seeing for a while and I really like them and I want you to meet them.
Yeah, that could be a lot. I would say where I would land, it probably would have been more appropriate for him to say, I'm going to start dating again. Also, maybe to just DJ. And not use any names, not give any specifics until it's necessary. But I think you're right. I think priming them and just letting them know that this is something that is happening is better than just lowering the boom all at one point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is one of those things that are a little bit nuanced, and it can maybe even also depend on, the types of kids. Maybe some kids around
Yeah.
this age just aren't ready for that kind of information. But yeah,
I think
interesting.
that a lot of it just comes down to the fact that it's like it's hard to know how your kid's going to react, so it's hard to then figure out how to have that conversation as a whole. It's not even necessarily that, you don't know how the kids, if the kid is able to handle it, because at the end of the day, it's going to be something that they have to handle regardless, whether it's now or it's a year or two from now when they find out that you've been lying about dating because now you're serious about somebody. Regardless, it's going to come back around to you. Just in my personal opinion, I feel like, especially because of the fact that she died, it's always going to be best to be like, look, I'm going to start dating. You don't have to give them any specifics. You don't, like, I wouldn't give them times, days. I wouldn't give them people's names. I wouldn't even tell them when I was going on a date, honestly. All of that would just be completely up, like, my business, and obviously Jesse and Joey, because they're going to be babysitting. But the girls don't need to know where you're going at all times. They just need to understand that you will be dating, not necessarily when you're going to be dating.
Right. So we cut to the girls' room, and DJ is showing Stephanie how to sell. And Stephanie tries to use these tactics on Danny, and he agrees to buy more jars. He sits them down and is trying to break the news to the girls, but continuously is buying more jars as to try to lighten the blow. And then finally, he admits the news that he will be going on a date with Linda. And Stephanie first says, like, "Oh, where are we all going?" And DJ just reveals, no, it's just going to be him and Linda. They want to be alone. And Stephanie gets a little bit confused. And Danny tries to explain what's going on, but DJ asks if Danny could just stay home because she needs help with her homework. And Stephanie asks that if dating Linda means Linda will be their new mommy, and Danny says of course not, and Stephanie just says she just does not know what is going on. And DJ says what's happening is dad is leaving when we need him to stay here, and that gets Danny to cave and he agrees to stay home. This part kind of breaks my heart a little bit. Like Stephanie's confusion. And I like, okay, what is this kid? 6 years old? How are you able to tap into the emotions of confusion and disbelief at this age? Like maybe she just genuinely was a little bit confused and unsure about what was going on as she's reading these lines. But the performance of this child is fucking outstanding. It's palatable, her confusion. It's crazy.
I feel like it may not have been necessarily like her confusion when reading it. I think it was more so just like, it's very likely that nobody explained to her exactly what any of it meant, just that she needed to say these lines. You get me? And she probably understood like the gist of it, but something like this isn't necessarily easy for a kid to understand. I feel like I love that the writers included the fact that like with their age difference and with the fact that DJ has more of a memory of her mom than Stephanie does, that Stephanie would be, one, she'd be more open to it. And two, she'd also be more confused by like what it even means.
Mm-hmm.
And DJ to take a stronger stance because obviously she was really close to her mom. I can understand her taking a stronger stance. I don't like the way in which she went around it, but I also understand why she did because as we've talked about in previous episodes, I've pointed out how like certain things came off as kind of manipulative in order to get, one person to do something in a specific way or in order to get somebody to change their mind or whatever, kind of like with the whole
Dad
DJ
money.
coming back from her sleepover thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a whole conversation at that point about the slight pieces of manipulation in just a few of these episodes, and I feel like this is just the writers kind of coming full circle on that because she's using the same tactics that we've seen used across other episodes with the adults in the house. So it's just it's just it's one of those things where it may be uncomfortable, but not in a way where I was like, I don't like this, but more in a way of like the writers did a really good job of kind of making that a family trait.
Making it a family trait, but I also do give DJ a little bit of credit here because I feel like she's also at this point 10, 11 years old. At this age, you don't know why you're doing the things that you're doing. She may not, she probably knows like, okay, well, dad won't leave if I tell him I need him here. But I don't think that at this point she's even fully really able to understand why this bothers her so much, and just why she just can't have this right now, and it could be a lot,
Like I get it, but I feel like just because what we've seen beforehand, we know that DJ is fully capable of just saying she doesn't want him to go. I don't want you to go. I don't want her to be my new mom. I feel like it's disrespectful to our mom, or like I feel like there's a lot of other ways she could have said it. I'm not upset at the fact that she tried to get him to stay because I felt like that was inevitable because of her age and her ties to her mom. It was more of the fact of like well, I need help with my homework, and dad's deciding that his date is more important than us is a very manipulative way of going about it, which is something we've seen in previous episodes with the adults in the family. But we know that DJ is fully capable of just saying something like, I don't want you to go, or, realistically, it's just the I don't want you to go, or, are you disrespecting
she did make it
mom?
Clear that
would mom be okay with this? But it's just like she made it clear that she didn't want him to go by using the manipulative link. I'm trying to find the right way of saying it, but we know that she didn't want him to go, but it wasn't because she said the words "I don't want you to go." It's because she manipulated him into guiltily staying behind, the same way that she was manipulated into guiltily coming back from her sleepover so that Danny can go and do his dream interview. It's just again, it wasn't icky in a way where I was like, I don't like this, or like I feel like they should have rewritten it. It was more icky in a way where you see the same tactics being used against them, being used with them, like against the adults. If you understand what I'm saying, it's just the guilt trip and the manipulation is used the exact same way across all of the family members, with the exception of Michelle and Stephanie, obviously.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying there, and I think that it's interesting because it is a little bit of a family trait, and I guess it'll be interesting to see how many more times, because I also feel like it's very sitcom-y to just be like, to tell like that really clear manipulative lie that everybody knows, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But totally, that totally makes sense. So Danny then calls Linda to cancel the date, and the boys overhear this and asks what's going on. Danny explains to them that the girls have an issue, and the boys think that he should keep the date. Danny says that he thinks that dating might be better when the girls are off to college, but they suggest that it makes no sense for him to put his life on hold for that long. Ultimately, it is Danny's choice, and he calls Linda back to reverse. He basically puts a reverse Uno on what it is that he just said, and says that it was the work of Manny Tanner. And while he is on the phone, the girls walk down to thank him for cutting off the date and to say that they want to take him out for ice cream. This is all happening while he's on the phone. He then picks the phone back up and then drops another reversed Uno to get us back to where we first originally started. I will say that my heart kind of broke for these girls because I feel like in that moment, DJ actually understood the weight of the decision that Danny made. He really did something for them that, and she was just so happy about it that she like got all of her sisters together and, you know, and they all thanked him for this because it really isn't something that they wanted. But, yeah, this whole moment was just there was just so much going on in just such a brief moment. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I'm going to say something that may not be popular here. I did not think it was cute. My heart did not break for the girls. My heart broke for Danny because you could tell he was stuck between, you know, wanting to try to move on with his life and wanting to try to find happiness and putting his girls first, which is something I think a lot of parents deal with is, you know, do I do something that would make me happy or do I put my happiness to the side so that my kids can feel that happiness instead? So in this case, my heart was breaking for Danny, not for the girls, mainly because Stephanie didn't understand what was going on anyway. Stephanie would have been fine if Danny said he was going regardless. The only reason why she wouldn't have felt fine is because of anything that DJ would have said, like when she turned over and said, well, Dad's trying to replace Mom. When Stephanie said that she didn't understand what was going on. DJ immediately went in and filled in that blank and made it to be against Dad. So I didn't find it heartbreaking for them because she got what she wanted. And in order to make her dad feel better about getting what she wanted, she got her little sister to then come down and say, let's go for ice cream. So again,
I see your point there. Like she only has this nice moment after getting what she wants. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's just one of those, you made me happy, so now let me do something that'll make you happy in return and hope that you won't think about the thing that you just gave up for me.
Yeah, that.
But again, it comes back to that family trait I was just talking about, that little hint of manipulation in there, you know, to make you feel better about doing what she wanted, despite her knowing that you really wanted to go. It's the only reason why she's trying to reward you for doing what she wanted you to do.
Yeah, it's giving, see how good I am when I get what I want, Daddy? Like,
exactly. Now you're seeing what I saw. So yeah, my heart was breaking for Danny, not for the girls. Sorry, not sorry.
No, you know what? Hey, valid.
Look,
100 P.
I can only call it out because I was definitely that kind of child. I was very manipulative when I knew I could be. So I'm calling it out because I used to be the exact same way. Peak game. That's all it is.
Hey, man. That's just, I mean, kids, that's just how it be. People, all right? Like,
facts, people.
These words exist because these are the things we do.
Exactly.
So Jesse and Joey are disappointed that this has happened. And in the living room, they are trying to make the tree house, dream house, whatever it is for Michelle. Joey tries to help Jesse as Jesse is putting this together. And Joey has the manual. He's, trying to, he's doing that thing where he's like singing the correct way to do it, but Jesse's very stubborn. Real men don't use manuals. There are a lot of men like this. I don't know what the issue is. I don't get it, but this will not be, and this isn't too much of a spoiler, but this will not be the last time we see Jesse and Joey try to build something or renovate something.
I hope we get a whole episode just concentrate on it, because I just feel like that in itself would be a comedy. I can just feel it in my bones, because honestly, most of my favorite moments have existed because Jesse and Joey are in the same scene.
These two, and we're gonna see so much of these two, but toward like the later seasons, it just gets so good between these two. They get so comfortable around each other, but it's also just as good seeing that relationship develop. So I'm I'm just stoked. But this was a nice little peek at that, and I love, like, if we just take a second to really recognize, like, Jesse's position and Joey's position, they stay firm in these two roles every time they try to do some shit like this. So I can't wait. We're gonna get there. This was just a little teaser, but y'all. And y'all fans who are listening right now, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, back to this episode. The girls walk into the living room, and the boys suggest that maybe the girls and Jesse and Joey go out for ice cream and let Danny go out on his date. And DJ says this idea stinks. And Joey says that he understands that this is hard for them. And DJ asks, well, how could you possibly know? And Joey explains that when his parents got divorced, he was only 6 years old, and he was also not really happy when his mom started dating again. But after he got used to it, he noticed that his mom was happier because she wasn't lonely. Now, briefly before we continue, I understand Joey's perspective here and trying to level with the girls, trying to understand their uncomfortability with it. However, we can't ignore the fact that it is a completely different situation when two alive parents have decided to not be married anymore than a widowed situation. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So, like, on one hand, yes, 100%. They are completely different situations because it is a completely different situation. In one hand, your parents have split up, but they're both still existing in your life in one way or the other. On the other hand, you have one where just the parent is gone. There was no goodbyes. It wasn't even a choice. But I feel like the reason why Joey is saying it is because while the circumstances themselves may not be the same, that helplessness you feel as a child because you have no control over everything that's happening around you, whether your parents stay together, whether your mom is alive or your mom is dead, whether your parent moves on or not, that helplessness is still going to feel almost the same. But there's going to be an emptiness to you if you lost that parent, because it's not like you can go to, dad's house next weekend and complain about all the stuff that mom's been doing, or the fact that now mom is dating. It is different. There's going to be an emptiness that's there, but the helplessness is going to be very similar.
Yeah, there's alignment there, and but yeah, it was a little bit like, I don't know about this, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
So DJ and Steph react to this. They're like, well, we didn't know that he was lonely, and we don't want him to be lonely. So they agree to go upstairs and talk to him. And just right before we get that moment, Jesse has finished the dream house, but he is stuck in it. And Joey asks, "Coming, master?" as he tries to enter the kitchen. And Jesse thugs it out and tries to walk with the house just on his body, which is just a funny visual, I guess, for the episode. So before they go and talk to their dad, DJ wants to talk to Steph real quick, and she takes her into their bedroom. And then DJ says she's not sure about this, and she suggests that they are forgetting about how their mom would feel. And Steph says that she doesn't want anyone to not be happy, and it's complicated, and she's having her first headache. The girls then,
I get it.
Yeah, and even in this moment, she's doing such a great job of just playing this confused kid who just doesn't have the context to be able to understand what's going on, let alone deal with it, but somehow is still able to feel all of the stress that comes with it. And it's so weird and it's so crazy, but it's really good.
Yeah.
The girls walk into Danny's room with Michelle and some ice cream. And Danny says, "Oh, I thought we were going out for ice cream." And DJ says that she wants to talk to him, but she's having a hard time being able to get it out. And Stephanie just asks, and she says, "DJ was wondering if you still love mom." And Danny says, "Of course. She was his first love, and they created 3 little miracles together, and nothing will change that, not even if he falls in love again." And DJ asks, "Okay, well, but how would mom feel?" And Danny says he knows exactly how she would feel. He says that parents have these talks when they get married, and they talk about a lot of different things. And one of the things that they talked about was they agreed that if they ever became single again, that they should find someone to spend their life with. And she would know that there was no one who can replace, but someone who can be there while the other one is gone. And this is one of those moments where I think Full House just has this expert way of explaining things, because yeah, in a perfect world, two people who are getting married are going to have this discussion. But how often are people really having this discussion? Like, hey, if I die, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I guess people are and they aren't, but like to have that real serious talk, which it seems like Danny and Pam did have, because in this universe, I'm sure that they did, but it is the perfect way to address this. But I also feel like, why didn't you lead with that?
I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm like trying to picture how you would bring that up to your kids. Are you going to say, hey, so I'm thinking about going on a date with Linda. In case you were wondering, your mom said it was fine. We talked about it beforehand. You get me? Like, I'm not sure how you would drop that in a conversation in the first place, especially with the kids. Like, it is definitely something that I feel like is easier to talk about when it's brought up, and not just something that can be brought up as like a random thing, like, hey, like, let's sit down and have a talk because I want to date and I want you guys to know that your mom thought it was okay for me to date too. Yeah,
I mean,
you see how it sounds when like you try to put it into any type of context realistically, especially if you picture yourself talking to kids. You get me? Like, you want to just kind of have that like, hey, I'm going to start dating kind of thing. And like, if the whole, will mom be upset type of thing, or does this mean you're forgetting mom or something? Like, if that conversation comes up, then at very least you know that you could have that conversation with your kids. But I think that like I couldn't even picture or imagine how you would bring that up in just a conversation when you're trying to just bring up the idea of dating.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, in practice, that's a little wild. You do
Yeah,
need to be
exactly.
invited to, but like, I kind of feel like
Like, I'm trying to it really feels like something like, if you're going to say it, it has to be like you have to be invited to give me that information. You get me? Otherwise, it feels like you're trying to get ahead of the problem by maybe bullshitting your way through it. You get me? Because
like, oh, how convenient. Ma said it was cool, right? Like,
exactly. And you're telling me that right as you're telling me that you're about to start dating. Right. Okay. There's no way to bring that up and have it sound natural or caring or for the other person's, betterment in any way. Like, if he said that, it wouldn't have sounded like it was for the girls. It would have sounded like he's saying it so the girls won't be mad when he does it anyways.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah, sometimes too much honesty can just be sus.
Exactly. And I think that's definitely one of those cases. It is one of those things where you have to just kind of be invited to kind of give that information. But I think that it's information that could have came out sooner if Danny had thought to really talk about it and not just stop it at, yeah, okay, I'll just stay home then, it's fine. Instead of digging deeper into like why DJ didn't want you to go. You get me? I feel like sometimes we see that happen quite a bit, actually. We're like, we're like the one episode where Danny left and said that, Stephanie and DJ are fighting now, but it'll come to a head later. You guys can handle it. It really seems like Danny will see that there's an issue, but he doesn't quite know how to address it. So he just leaves it for later.
Right.
And that was definitely one of those things, because if he would have pushed DJ as to why she's so against it, and not in a way of like, well, why is it a bad thing? Just more like, what about me dating bothers you the most? Like, let's have a full conversation about it. Then it would have been brought up. But because he saw an issue and knew that it would just be easier to fix it by not going on the date, we never got to address it until this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that does make sense. Yeah, I do vibe with that. So DJ sees this, understands, and then says that he should go. And then Danny says that he doesn't think that, Linda will take the date again. And then DJ says, fine, I'll call her. And then Danny is again stoked about this. Like, she's able to call, the date gets set back on. Danny's excited. He's shooting hoops in his room. He's all insecure about like about how he looks, and he's going through a few looks. I'm trying to remember if this little montage of him like with a bunch of different styles was part of the show when I was watching the reruns. It's not really in that compartment of memories, but I do remember this scene. So he finally goes downstairs. He's looking like how he usually looks, and Linda is already in the living room with Joey and Jesse. Danny comes down. He apologizes for everything, and then Linda says, "I understand. I went through the same craziness when I started dating again." They both leave, and the boys do a little dad bit like, "You two kids have fun. You come back early," and all this crap. It's pretty funny. And the boys then try to put Michelle in the treehouse. She is not interested in it. And it's a very classic example of just like, kids love playing with the boxes. They love, like, they don't really need all these flashy ass toys. You can give them paper and they'll be off the wall. So
kids are like cats. You can give them a box full of toys. Realistically, they're only interested in the new box. The toy can wait till later.
Rabbits especially, because they fucking love cardboard.
Man, I can't even imagine, because I have an issue with my cats already, where if I get a new Amazon package, I can leave the box outside, and that's a new toy for the next 4 days, and then I can toss it. I could not imagine getting little like pieces of cardboard everywhere because they're just kind of nibbling on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a lot of like in the middle of the night just hearing like, who's renovating the cardboard right now? Jesus. But yeah, rabbit owning. But yeah, that is the that's the end of our show. So do we have a not in our house moment? Not in my house moment?
Buying 17 jars of honey from one person. We ain't got money like that.
Being a part of these things was definitely not in my house, because I remember, I always wanted to be one of those kids. It costs money. I wanted to sell the world's finest chocolate too, but then my family was just like, all right.
Yeah,
we ain't doing none of that.
We can't afford for you to buy them and then hope that you can sell them off so we can maybe get the money back. But it wouldn't even be us getting the money back. It would be going to whoever we were selling the chocolate bars for. But we bought the chocolate bars from them and we're giving the money back to them. So it's just like,
exactly.
Like our parents understood what was up, and we just wanted to be a part of it, but we couldn't afford to be a part of it. So yeah, that I would say just the entire activity of it, but also buying 17 jars, honestly, buying 3 or more jars from one person would be a not in my house.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like one of my schools actually required each kid to sell at least one box of the world's finest chocolate for whatever reason. And literally that just attracted rats in my house, and they all just fucking ate all of it. And I'm just like, you know what? This is why I don't do this shit. I don't. The chocolate's delicious. Do not get me wrong. World's finest. Yes. They're smaller now, but when we were kids, you remember how it was. The one with the Crispies. They were like these knockoff Crunch bars. Fire.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Fire.
They were pretty big. That's for one. I remember them being massive, and I remember when we had to sell them. We never actually sold any of them. Like, we would bring them back home. My mom, who has a major sweet tooth, would buy a chocolate bar and then give the money, and then buy a chocolate bar and then give the money, because it would be easier than going like down to the liquor store or going down to the grocery store. She would just buy a chocolate bar from us. So if we waited long enough, the chocolate would go. But honestly, we also never gave that money back to the school either. Like, to be honest, we always just said that we didn't sell anything. Like, I don't actually, like, I remember getting the chocolate. I remember my mom and my grandma and a few of like my uncles and aunts and cousins and stuff when I was really young and they were still around. Like, I remember them buying chocolate off of us, but I don't actually remember my mom ever taking us to turn in the money.
You know what? Now that I think about it, what was stopping any, like, wait, yeah, like, I get,
That's crazy.
All right.
I was today years old when I realized we sold chocolate bars and we never went back and returned the money. That's crazy. I never realized that until right now. That's so funny.
Gangsta.
Crazy. All right.
Um, our get the violins moment.
I already told you my heart was breaking when Danny was so excited for that date, and then the girls
Mm-hmm.
came down. The little, we're gonna take you for ice cream since you did what we told you to do. That my heart just
Yeah,
broke for Danny.
yeah, yeah. Heart go. For me, it's every moment with Stephanie in it. Like I just that whole like I'm too young to get it, but I'm involved and I'm feeling it and
Yeah,
I don't know what to do. Like those complexities, girl, those
man.
feelings never go away. Life never starts making any more sense. So buckle
Mm-mm.
up. But I want to save you. I I felt for Stephanie for the most part, but I'm totally with you on there. This sucked for Danny, but I'm
Yeah,
happy that he did get his date.
eventually, yes.
Yeah. Um, and our full stop moment, which moments of the episode did not age very well, if any? I'm wondering if there are some men out there who would be a little bit annoyed about Jesse's whole real men don't use manuals thing, you know?
I was kind of gonna like I was kind of going to say that one realistically because like look, I know I feel like nowadays you can go on Amazon and you'll see a lot of 1-star reviews of people who are giving it 1 star just because there was no manual and they had no idea how to put it together. So it's just like I don't know if it like I wouldn't say it didn't necessarily age well, but I would say it's not necessarily something that we see as often now, though we do still see it.
Exactly. I'm wondering if because we're in 2024, there'll be anybody out there who's like, all right, really, like that's how we repping dudes on this show. But it's like, I don't know, it won't be like that. Like I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
I don't know if I could even really call it like a full stop moment, even realistically. Like I don't know if we had any real full stop moments here, just because like I said, there were parts where I found like where I got a little ick from it, but it wasn't because it was generally uncomfortable. It was just because I was seeing a trait kind of being used with all of the family members for the most part. So yeah, I don't have a full stop moment. I can't think of anything that I would really consider a full stop moment. I think that this season or this episode did really well and aged really well. And I think that they did really well on touching, both DJ and Stephanie's, point of view on the idea of Danny dating. I think that, the little B plot with Jesse and Joey putting together the treehouse was adorable. um I don't think we had any real full stop moments. I think we had a couple that we were like, why would you do that, like with the buying 112 jars of anything, but no full stop moments.
yeah, this episode aged all right. And then
Yeah,
finally, a dad like Danny. What parental practices did Danny put into place this episode, and how do we feel about it?
Danny always puts his girls first. I'll always give him credit for that, even if I feel
No
like
matter what.
they're manipulating him. I'll still give him credit for it because he's just trying to be a good dad, and he's trying to do the things that he knows how to do while trying to learn the things that he doesn't. And he's doing a fantastic job.
He is doing it. Like it is just, and I hate to bring it to this level, but it was very important for me. I mean, I know I have a dad in a literal sense, but to not have grown up with a dad or to have grown up with a dad who's indifferent about your existence, it's really amazing to be able to watch a dad really give it, and do anything. And just seeing him do these things for his kids over and over and over again is important for, young people to be able to see. It was important for me to be able to see. And I appreciated it then, and I'm appreciating it like just all over again as an adult, because now that I am an adult and I'm damn near Danny's age. I'm, you know what I mean? He's apparently 30 with all these kids in this big ass house, but I know how hard it is to have to make these decisions when you are still so young. Cause Danny's 30, 31 at this point, like to
Mm-hmm.
you're still very young and you still want to be able to do things for yourself. And the fact that you never have to ask this man twice, it's the girls first always.
Every time.
It's great. Yeah. So
no, regardless of how he feels, every time.
Yeah, we love Danny. So any other final thoughts before we wrap this one up? This very sweet one.
No, I really like this episode. I think this was a really good episode. It's also our first episode where we had no full stop. So I think that this is we can say the first episode that we think aged well completely.
Aged well and was written well, especially just even
Very
with the
well.
one-liner that Jesse had where he was like, oh, it's been a year, it's time. Like, okay, writers, you've established that you know how to do these things. You know how to make things make sense.
Yeah, but the issue now is that like now I'm going to be expecting it going forward.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Now we have it hopefully only goes up. There's always those one or two like there. I can think of a couple episodes right now that I am dreading, but this was a really good one, and this was great. So I guess we can sign off.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Please remember to like, subscribe, follow all the things, and stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, this is Dax.
And M, reminding you
to never walk away angry. We'll just bring that one back.
I like that one.
I do like that one too. Thank you all so much. We love you.